future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com. Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fett on ubnradio.com.
And welcome. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon here at the Sunset Gower Studios out of Hollywood, California, and every Thursday on my NBC News Radio channel, KCAA AM 1050 at 7 p.m. And you're listening to a show about hope and happiness and how you can be happy 88% of the time and not tune in to CNN constantly negative news, but I bring you some balance and what's right with people, what's right with the world. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk at all. Instead, we have topics and guests that make a difference, and we try to do it with a sense of humor, definitely. And you'll hear me often say, I'm going to put the moose on the table, which is the Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room. So welcome to my show. And a peace shout in, instead of a shout out, to several people. First, my guys at the Sunset Gower security team, Jackson, Washington, Maurice. You guys are doing a fabulous job. It's always nice to come in and get that smile first thing before work. And also a real big shout out. My wonderful new web designer, Michael Gonzalez, gave me a report saying that I have new listeners and people checking in to my website, forbalance.org, from Russia. So hello to Russia and Brazil. Came in second, and Austria as well. So we're just reaching all sorts of places thanks to the technology today. And what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about, one more shout out, my LinkedIn people. Can't forget that. I love seeing endorsements there, and I told them that I would say hi. Tim Taylor, Lorena Perez, Susie Clothier, Jalen Jones, Tom Lord, and Ken Richardson. It is so important if you have the capacity and the ability to make people's day. Now it's really easy if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn with a little, give them a finger. I mean, a thumbs up. You can just click, and it is nice. It is nice to get that icing. So thank you so much for taking the moment to do that. Also, all the people who have wished me happy anniversary here at Universal Broadcasting Network, thank you so much. Xie xie in Mandarin, that's thank you. And without further ado, I could be thanking in gratitude for the entire show, but I do have a very special guest today who I met years ago. I think it was Arne Batson, who is a beautiful singer, who introduced me to my two beautiful choir sisters, Ray Ronnie, who's now visiting in New Zealand, and Jessica Collaco, who are both my, I call them my diva sisters because we're all first sopranos in the fabulous Agape International Choir members. And I know we have some listening, so hi there. And I asked her to come on for a very important topic, which is how to talk to kids about violence. And it is a timely topic because there's usually when you turn on the news, there's a lot of violence, but it seems like this last year, I think, has been at an all-time high. So I wanted to address that topic. So without further ado, please welcome to my studio, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Jessica was actually here a couple years ago in a different studio and with her beautiful little girls. And we talked about kids.
We did.
And happy kids. And so I couldn't think of a better person to bring on to talk about that.
Thank you.
So let's get right to the topic, which is, should you actually talk about violence to your kids? And is the violence that we see today, and just when I went to do some research on it, there's an all-time high violence on TV, violence on movies, violence in music, violence in the news. There just seems to be like one in every 3 seconds. Every single news story, like it's in the 90%, 99, once in a while you get a feel good. But the majority of everything that's inundated around is about violence. Okay. And I'm defining violence as anything where someone hurts another person. So so if you turn on the news, it's almost always something about somebody doing something to someone else. And today was no difference with what's going on with the police officers that shot the homeless man. So what do we do to protect our kids from this thing called violence?
Well, you have to know, as a parent right now, I'm parenting very young children. So my oldest is just now 8. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my husband and I, from a very early age, our intuition just told us to turn off the TV. It was putting us as parents in fear, and it made us constantly want more information. It was disconnecting us from our children, and they were seeing, like you were saying, they were seeing it all the time. And, when you have a little baby in the house, you're wanting to preserve their innocence for as long as you can. And just having the TV running on, supper's boiling on the stove, you run away, you're leaving a kid unattended in front of something that's really influencing them. They're taking it all in. And we just decided that less was more. And we've sort of maintained that for as long as we can so that we could really build an intentional foundation for them to grow up in, so we could really reinforce those values that were important to us.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to say that I think most of my listeners, if not all, like-minded, love-hearted ones are on. I'm preaching to the choir here, but it is really important to make that conscious effort not to listen to the news and listen to the TV until there is balanced news on the TV. And I will get all kinds of stuff on this because I get accused all the time. Is your middle name Pollyanna? Or why are you always so positive? And, you're not a realist. You're an idealist, not a realist. And you can't live your life with your head in the sand. And I get this all the time. And I keep saying, but I prefer to shield myself from those things that don't help, are not part of the solution. So if we're bringing on news in a way, negative news or things that are bad that are happening, in a way that is focused on a solution, what can we do to remedy what's going on? Then I will start watching, then I will start reading. But as long as there is a barrage of negative news all the time, and then for those who say, yeah, but Dr. Marissa, that is what happens in the world. It is negative. There's no way to make it nice looking. That is the news. And I will say, I'm sorry, bullshitaki. There's a million pieces of news that you could be putting in front of the listener, that you could be putting in front of the watcher, but you're not. It is not. There's no such thing as unbiased news. No such thing, because the producers bias us with what they choose to put on. So our teacher, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, will call the media a weapon of mass distraction. And he's absolutely right, because whatever that is, and then what happens is, and here's where you have a choice. Even if you do hear it, you don't have to be glued to it. Okay? So even when something happens like Boston Marathon, Sandy Hook, ISIS, you don't have to sit and then be subject to hours and hours of speculation from people who think they know, but they don't know. So that's where I have to take responsibility and say, okay, I'm going to hear it, but I'm not going to go in the direction that they want me to go in with that.
Right. And I agree with what you're saying. And I too have been questioned, are we shielding our children? Am I sugarcoating what the real world is like? And to those people who question, I invite them to do the social experiment. Take a month and remove yourself from the TV. And if you want to stay on Facebook or Reddit or whatever social media you choose to use, you'll find that you'll get all the important stuff, because people will put a call out for prayer, or people will say, I saw this article and I don't agree with it. And so you'll enter a connected conversation. And again, you still have the opportunity to limit yourself, because it's very easy to get pulled into the debate or taking sides or separation.
Exactly.
But what I have found is that when I just have the broad facts of a story without going into the gory details of watching CNN for an hour and having the same story rehashed to me so many times where I'm having bad dreams about it.
Right.
I find that I can assimilate all the facts, and I can just get into a powerful place of consciousness about it and say, where can I have compassion here?
Exactly.
Where can we find kindness here? What could the next steps be besides, revenge or retaliation?
Yes.
What are the values that I want to use in this situation, and how can I be part of it?
Now you know why she's my guest. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is really what we do with what's put in front of us. So if we choose to have whatever it is in front of us, how we model that for our kids. Do we immediately jump on the bandwagon of, okay, so what's happening today with the shooting? Okay, so do we either side with the cops, or do we side with the people, the undue force of police brutality? Do we jump into that, or do we go to solution? Okay, so applying this solution. And here's the thing. I'm not offering a simple solution to what's going on right now. I know that there are riots starting already, and I would just, in this moment, let's take a breath. And that is a breath of wisdom and peace and compassion and understanding that what we have here is, there's no magic pill to make it over. There's no one-way solution in all of this. What we have today is the result of many, 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 many things that came in, that have gone on and come into play. And it's going to take many, many, many people with a concerted effort to look for solutions and to act in a way that is solution oriented. And we can go there, for every million pieces of bad news, there's a million pieces of good news. So look at what happened in Selma. I mean, that's a role model. What did Martin Luther King Jr. do? What did Gandhi do? We have so many positive things. So I'll balance out CNN. Sound like I'm bagging CNN. CNN has a wonderful a program called CNN Heroes, right. And they specifically look for people who have done good things. So, but that usually is on a feel-good day, not top news. But if there's a way to sort of meld those two, okay, here's the bad news. Now, what's the good news? Right. Or here's the bad news, and we're not going to report anything. We're not going to speculate, because there's nothing good that comes out of speculating unless you speculate for the good. Right? So let's not speculate, and we'll come back to you. But in the meantime, look at the winners from the CNN, or what good are people doing in the areas of abuse and homelessness? And there's so much. And the good news is, if you have time, and if you stopped watching all of the shows that you watch about nothing, not talking Seinfeld here, show about nothing. Even he admitted it. But if we, that, you know, I have so many clients who say, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And then I go, so what happened in the last thing of Scandal? Blah, blah, blah. And I know they shoot here. So I'm you know, I'm not saying that there isn't room for entertainment, but I think that one of the contributing factors to violence is that entertainment has become a way to eat up our time and eat up, and so we get hostaged into that violence. There's when I was doing the research, they call this the blame circle. And so the media will say, well, you can't blame us for showing violence. You can't blame us for showing what is real and what is, because we have to report the news and it's negative. And then people will say, well, we can't help but just watch that because that's what you keep reporting. And then the people that actually put the show on, or the sponsors, say, you know, we only want our commercials on those shows that have viewers. So it's that vicious circle. So then that becomes a question of, it is true, there is a part of human nature, right? When you're driving by something and you know you shouldn't look, right? Or when you see cop cars or ambulances, what do? Do you drive by and you take a deep breath and you pray for the people and hope that no one's hurt and then keep going? No, you pull over. You know, I'm guilty, right? It happened when there was a car fire. This Corvette went on fire at my Costco when I was standing there. And what do? You know, my kid's going, Mom, move your car away from the fire. Because I was on the phone with her. No, what do? I move it closer and I get out of the car and I start filming the freaking, you know, and I put it on Facebook. And everybody's like, what are you doing? Get away from that. You know, and of course the tires blow. So I will be the first to admit that I am attracted to tragedy. There's something in me that is attracted to that violence. But is that who I am?
No, I believe what's happening in entertainment specifically is we need a good conflict, and we do need something that engages somebody and makes them want to watch. What I'm talking about specifically in children's TV is you've seen that conflict. Even the most well-intentioned shows or books will try to talk about, you know, how can we make friends with someone who might be mean to us, and we'll spend 3/4 of the program or the book showing how to be mean to someone, and 2 pages resolving it in a snap. Where truthfully, the process for a child to navigate that is very long. It's very introspective. They have to seek support from outside help. It's not as simple as that. It's not just a 2-page solution. And unfortunately, what you've done then, too, is you've modeled what to do when someone's mean to you. Well, you might go hide. Or, you know, what to do when you're afraid of someone, call them a name. Now you know a name to call them. So they're absorbing all of those things. And as adults, we're doing similar things in our own entertainment to keep people engaged. I'll admit to you, I love to watch a good thriller. I love to watch shows like Scandal that that keep you watching and keep you watching because they're exciting. And I don't think we're saying like it's an all or nothing. Like you said, it's balance. But when you think about shows like Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers, the biggest conflict on those shows was losing your blankie. Or, you know, a friend is sad because they lost their toothbrush and we have to help them find it. And we've really evolved to a place where TV shows for kids are, you know, so many edits per second. They're getting so much information at once. And a lot of those conflicts have heightened up to bullying. We're trying to address issues like bullying. Or, you know, a parent not being home. And those are all very valid things to navigate. But what I'm saying, and I think what you're saying as well, is what's the new way in which that we can explore those conflicts without just modeling the same behavior over and over again, so that by the time we're adults watching these news channels, we're just expecting that that's the way things go. Right.
We're not questioning it, or we're not interjecting what our, you know, value added stance is. If you've just tuned in, you are listening to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And I have a wonderful friend guest on today, Jessica Collaco, who has been doing, she not only doesn't like what is on TV or doesn't like what books she's reading to her child, she's decided to take matters into her own hands. And she's published a beautiful book called Frenzy's Light and has now her own publishing publishing company of children's books. So being that wonderful, be the change you want to see. And so I invited her on to talk about this very timely subject. And we've been talking about how to talk to your kids about violence. And if I were to recap what we're talking about, one is, making sure that it isn't around them where we can control it, right?
Set an intention with it.
Because until TV changes its stripes around reporting a balanced, good news, bad news, then they're getting infiltrated. The other research that I found, which was really good news, is that despite the growing amount of violence in media, that parents still are the number one influence on how that violence plays out in their life. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, yes, do you want to make sure that you know what your child is watching? Absolutely. What they're reading, mm-hmm. what they're talking about. So talking about, I think, why I wanted to specifically hone in on that is I am grateful. I have a book coming out this year because I had to make sure my kids were okay before I could actually publish it, called Balanced Parenting. Okay, the middle between the rod and the spoil, mm-hmm. and finding that middle place for my kids. And one of the things that I force them to do is to be grateful every morning, 3 things out the door for the last 10 years, and what they appreciate about their sister, about their mom, and about themselves. Mm-hmm. And that has been a daily practice for them when I'm with them half time for the last 10 years. And then the other thing is, on the way home, they have to talk to me about school. Mm-hmm. And this is where I see, parents, and I'm not blaming parents, but the easier way for parents to deal with teenagers is to pick them up. And if they say everything's fine, you just do whatever you do. You take care of business. Many parents working full time like I am. And then we are on the phone, we're talking to clients, we, do your homework, and then we go off and do our own thing, and then we, catch dinner on the run, and then, we deserve a break, so we watch whatever we watch, and we fall asleep exhausted the morning, getting everybody ready, and then, we wake up one day and go, is it Christmas already? Right? So so we miss out on the opportunities to talk about anything. Right. And so with my kids, this morning I asked them, so what do you think I should address on the show with violence? And they said, well, you didn't sit us down to talk about violence. You did about the birds and bees, but you didn't do it about violence. And I go, do you think I should have? And they said, no. But if we have a question, we know we can talk to you about it. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is a very wise nugget from my daughters but I can't talk to them about violence. I can't talk to them about anything if I'm doing my work, or if I'm letting them get away with not talking. So we have this rule coming home in the car that for 5 minutes they have to talk about every class. And then what happens inevitably is in one of the classes they'll go, oh, and in this class we talked about, whatever. And then we were listening to the one radio station, and they talked about the baseball player who was taking on the angry tweets mm-hmm. of the people, which was a great thing that we could talk about. Right. It's like, isn't it great that people are making people take responsibility for, the ugliness in cyberbullying? Sure. Isn't that great? So I know that you get a lot of flack for protecting your kids. You actually send your kids to a special school.
It's still part of the public school system, but it is a charter school where we homeschool part-time, and they go to classroom 2 days a week. But the school is committed to using nonviolent communication in their discipline process. Mm-hmm. So it's really finding the highest intention of the student. So let's say a student is, maybe acting out in the classroom. They talk about, well, what's the source of that, not just the symptom. They might say, he didn't sleep last night, he hasn't been feeling well. They might be able to have a one-on-one talk with them. They have people at the school who will come and have a one-on-one talk with them and speak with the parents mm-hmm. about what's happening here, and not just placing blame on the behavior, and just really trying to find a solution and really listen to, because usually if a kid's acting out, they just want someone to hear them.
Right. Right.
and they're in fear. So it's trying to find a source for that rather than just saying you're being bad and you should be punished for having a feeling.
Right.
And so it's been a real blessing for them to have a shift to a new paradigm. So
that is an
it's
awesome
really nice.
thing. And this is what we can do as parents. How many parents have actually gone to the school at every level and said, how do you resolve conflict at this school? I mean, really. I mean, that's a very simple way to have some influence. It is something you can do.
Sure.
I mean, that's the old paradigm is, it's your job now. They're in school, they're in your keep, and I just don't want to hear about any problems.
Right.
Okay. And then if I get called in to have problems, I'm going to ground you, and that's the end of that. And that's parental guidance through the teenage years. Different paradigm. How involved? I mean, it's great. Our generation too now has co-ops, right? My kids went to a preschool co-op where the parents had to get involved, and the parents had to get. So it's a system. So, when we went to the whole thing around Sandy Hook, it was so fast. Well, what did the mom do? Didn't the mom know? Didn't the mom this? Didn't the mom that? And it's like, okay, we can spend all our time blaming the mom for what the son did, or we could look at, what is in my control? There's a good question. When I look at violence that is on the news, my first question is, what can I do to be part of the solution in this? And if it's nothing, then I don't want to talk about it. I mean, that's and that is a discipline. Because it's so easy to talk about it. Once it gets put out there, and then I get on the phone with a friend, did you hear about blah? And then we spend all that time talking about, oh, well, I can't believe this, and what is the world coming to, and, what's wrong with people? And then what does that do? I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, as you are too. It makes that bigger. Okay. Yes, it is true. But what is true is what we keep talking about and what we keep growing and what we keep making bigger. We have to stop doing that.
We do.
We have to stop doing that, which is one of the fabulous things I get to put into play here. I'm not talking specifically about what's going on in the headlines, but I want to talk about the solution to the heart lines of what we can do. So even today, what can I do about what's going on? Pretty much nothing. Okay. Downtown, there's pretty much nothing I can do specifically. But what I can do is, okay, we have a homeless problem in LA. I can look into what are things that people are doing and support them in the homelessness situation. Right. And what can I do about diversity? So I will actually go up against one of your things there. So when do we talk about differences in people? When do we talk about, I know I grew up in Canada in a very, very homogenous German town, right? I was the only one that didn't look German, blonde, blue, green eyes. And I learned about diversity the hard way, right? Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, look at these. And so I know that, and I had Jerry Orris on the show to talk about bullying. I'm so grateful that we are looking at bullying more and more and more. There's more and more nonprofits going after that, the causes, that it is important to do that. But I'll tell you the number one most influential thing that I could do with regards to bullying is to talk to my kids about what it is like to feel different. And going back to that other brilliant point you made, it takes time, it takes more effort to get along with someone who's different than it is for someone that's the same. And that is something not talked about, right? Just get along. You can't just get along.
Right.
You have to work at getting along. And I'm getting the signal from my assistant producer that it is time to take a wonderful break from this very scintillating conversation about violence and talking to kids about how we can be nonviolent on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. We'll be back in 2 and 2, sponsors of this show.
Have you ever had a sweet potato cookie? Be the talk of the holiday table with Yam Good cookies and 4 unique tastes. All sweet potato with either pecan, ginger pecan, pineapple coconut, even topped with almonds. Available in West LA. So follow us on social media and visit www.yamgoodcookies.com to order. A holiday treat launched in the season of Thanksgiving that will now be enjoyed all year long. So have a Yam Good holiday. Love, unity, inner peace, and optimism. Their latest title, Frenzy's Light, is the inspirational tale of a firefly who must decide whether to keep her light hidden or let it shine for everyone to see. Through colorful illustrations and engaging storytelling, Frenzy's Light encourages young readers to be confident in themselves and find their authentic gifts. This beautiful hardcover book is available at www.shineyourlightbooks.com and Amazon.com. Visit Shine Your Light Books Facebook page to see how you can win a signed copy of Frenzy's Light, and let's shine the light on our children today.
And we're back. We are here with Jessica Collaco, the author of Frenzy's Light and publishing company, shineyourlightbooks.com. And we're talking about books. We're talking about books that do not promote what we don't want our kids to learn. And I wanted to come back because here's the other end of the solution to violence. If we continue to talk about violence, then there will be violence.
More violence. And that's why when we were saying how to talk to children about violence, I really wanted to say, how do we talk to children about peace?
Yes.
Because that's what we want.
Yes.
And we want them, that's what we want the end outcome to be.
Yes. And don't misjudge how powerful that balance is. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm all about balance. Because even in saying that statement, how do we talk to kids about violence? Where does our attention go? It goes to the violence. And so now we're totally turning it around. If we're not going to talk about that, we have to have something to talk about in its place. And what is truly beautiful in its place is the opposite of violence. The beauty of kindness. That is who we are. I confessed to my fascination with violence before the break. I'm going to balance that out with my fascination and my highlighting constantly of the goodness and the kindness and the beauty and the generosity and the inspiration and the creativity and the generosity of people. I had a wonderful guest on a few years ago, Bruno Serrato, who was a CNN Hero of the Year, and he feeds has fed 500,000 motel kids in the Anaheim area. I've had more than half of my, actually 100% of my guests are people who practice what His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls his religion, which is kindness. I don't have unkind guests on my show, you included. So tell me about this book that you publish. What inspired you to even come up with that story?
Well, of course, I couldn't sit by and just not act on my intuition, which was that my kids were not having enough conscious entertainment material. And so I wanted to be part of the solution to that. And having 3 daughters.
Yes, you heard right. 3. And they're beautiful. I love them so much. And one of the most... well, go ahead.
Very good. But yeah, so having 3 daughters, I started to notice that they were really looking to me for everything, and including what was coming out of my mouth and how I was viewing myself. And so I wanted to give them those gifts. I grew up Catholic, and so I loved the scripture story about never letting your light be hidden under a bushel basket. And I started searching for books with that parable in them. Mm-hmm. And there is still duality there. There is still good and evil, and if you don't shine your light, then you're bad, and bad things can happen to you in the context of religion. Right. And so I wanted to translate that into just a more spiritual book for them, and a book that could be available to anybody, no matter what their beliefs. So I wrote this book called Forensi's Light, and it's about a firefly who is afraid to shine her light. And interestingly enough, when I was sending it to very nice friends who were willing to look at it for me and give me some feedback on it.
Myself included?
Yes, exactly. People kept encouraging me to have her friends make fun of her. And part of me was really scared that I'm like, if I don't put a good conflict in this book, I got into the mindset of, the typical entertainment model. And so what I chose to do is to make the story about the story she tells herself, which is that it's inconvenient. It's going off at the wrong time. I can't play hide and seek. People keep finding me. I just wish it would go away. It's inconveniencing me. Whereas her friends really thought it was cool. And so I just made I took a different take on it. And
I didn't tell you to do that, by the way.
No.
I just want to
that would
go on the record.
On the record, no. But I did get really wonderful feedback. And, eventually she follows her own path and has an opportunity to make the choice herself from a place of introspection and not from a place of fear, from a place of love, from a place of compassion for herself, that's what she's going through. And so eventually she does let her light shine, and she sees what effect that has on the people around her. That it's not, beautiful. Oh, you're cool. It's like, oh, my friends think this is something beautiful. I see that they're happy because I shared with them. I get to receive from them as well. And it makes that unity even stronger. And that was what was so important about that lesson for my daughters. Was I going to find that in a book just on any regular shelf? No. So I did a Kickstarter, and I hired an illustrator, Angela Lee, who is incredibly amazing.
Cute. I'm going to show some
Please
of the pictures.
Please do. Yeah, the pictures are. It's amazing what a really good illustrator can do for you. She's wonderful.
Let's see if we can get this. Am I good? Isn't that cute?
And I really had wanted to not do all the dirty work myself and hand it off to a traditional publishing house. But then I really got real with the fact that I wanted to be able to get intentional with what I was putting in the book and what I was giving our kids. Because not every kid has a parent that stays home all the time. Not every kid can get homeschooled. Some kids encounter violence every day when they walk to school. Yeah. And I want to put something else in that circle, that media circle you were talking about, that it just keeps going around and around. If we keep feeding some new stuff in there, we can start to see a little more contrast. Yes. And it will start to balance things out.
Yes, absolutely. It is, it's a beautiful, and talking about self-publishing for a second. Isn't it wonderful that the old paradigm that you had to know someone to be published, isn't it wonderful that you can love money and make money and then publish yourself? I mean, I think that is truly one of the most beautiful things that's happened. Just like YouTube, you can, record yourself. We have so much singing talent. We don't have to wait for a music producer to find you through the old, who knows who kind of model. So I think it's just a beautiful thing that as much negative press sometimes technology gets on the whole cyberbullying and all of that, it has some beautiful uses, and that's one of them. I agree with you.
Well, something that was really interesting about doing a Kickstarter for this is it puts the power in the hand of the consumer. If you want a book like this, you can contribute to a book like this. Yes. So even though the book might not be made yet, you can seek out projects that are similar to this, and then you can start to put your funds that way rather than it coming the other way, being like, I'm just constantly fed this stuff all the time. Okay, I'll sit down and I'll just take it. That's what it is.
I've said this on one other show, but this is a perfect time to bring it up again. People put way too much stock and not enough stock in money. And we had this talk when we were driving in. Money is just energy. Money is where your vote is or where your interest is. So you have money. People say, I have no money. You have money. You can choose to buy a Starbucks, or you can choose to, go to a movie, or you can choose to take that same $5 and put it towards a project that you believe in. You're voting with your money. You have the money to say, this is what I believe in this, and I'm so appreciative. I have lots of supporters and listeners that say, yeah, I love your 21-day fast from complaining, and so I'm going to give you $5 on my GoFundMe /HRAXLO to say I'm going to help you make an app for this, right? And that's the beautiful thing about crowd raising. You can actually put your money where your belief system is. And that's another way we change. Instead of taking your money and paying for entertainment that is so violent that it makes you, leave it feeling bad, or, subscribing to a channel that is just constantly violent, or subscribing to a channel that's constantly talking about nothing or negative things, or political rhetoric or speculation, then support programming like mine that is about balance and about positive things and happiness. So again, this is where we can make a difference using our choice,
Right.
in terms of money.
Absolutely.
So how did they get your book?
Okay, so you can get my book two ways. You can visit my website, www.shineyourlightbooks.com. And you can also find it on Amazon.com, where you can enjoy free shipping or Prime shipping if you have a Prime account with them.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you like to say to your loved ones? A special love message to your family.
I am always so incredibly grateful for them. Something that's really wonderful about having intentional parenting with a husband who is in agreement with that intentional parenting is getting to show our kids how we live our dreams, and not having that be sugar-coated, that you can really do it. Yeah, there's challenging times, and I'm really glad that they see me through those challenging times, and then they see me through things like this, where I get to come on the radio and share a book that was just an idea with many, many people, and I can have an effect. I can change things in the world. And that's been our conversation at home when we do come up against those times of conflict, and when they do discover that the world is not a Pollyanna sugar-coated place, and they come to me and say, well, what is this? I don't understand. As we get to really just be intentional with them, and walk them through those challenges. I'm so very grateful to them for letting me do that.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. And you have other projects that are you're being inspired to do? Talk about that.
Yep. We are working on a second book right now that we are probably going to take to Kickstarter again. It was so successful for us. We had hoped to raise just $10,000, and we overfunded.
Congratulations.
So thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. But yes, there are many titles in the work. The next one is about an apple who dreams of being an apple pie, and his journey does not go as he had hoped. And it's really, the lesson is just reinforcing that with introspection, with stillness, with mindfulness, and with faith, we can traverse in what seems like a negative path. And sometimes it'll surprise us in the end.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, that is Jessica Collaco, who is a mom of 3 beautiful girls, who wasn't happy with the amount of violence and the amount of conflict, the way the conflict was being resolved in the books of today, and decided to publish her own books. And so you can support her and the work that she does and get a beautiful book to read to your children at shineyourlightbooks.com. And this is a beautiful book called Forense's Light. And they can actually now be in a raffle.
Yes, on our Facebook page, we are doing a signed book giveaway until March 17th. So when you visit our page and like it, we will enter you in. You'll see all the details on the Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/shineyourlightbooks.
Yeah, so if you go to search for people like me and put Shine Your Light Books, you'll be able to find the page, click the like, and be entered for a free book. Yes. And then I thought I would also... since your daughters love this book, and I'm so grateful for that. The first time I showed it to them and sat down, I think they made me read it like 5 times in a row. So this is another book. This is actually part of your Asian Oprah giveaway today. It's called Mommy, What Are Feelings? And every feeling has a taste, touch, sight, and sound. And it was illustrated by my 3- and 5-year-old daughters, who are now 15 and 17. And I'll just read the first part. It says, Mommy, what are feelings? Feelings are colors you see with your eyes. Feelings are sounds you hear with your ears. Feelings are pictures you sense with your fingers. And feelings are tastes that on your tongue lingers. And then what happens is if you draw, you can draw with your children. There's a little place there in a frame. Mommy, what is scared? Scared looks like a shiny silver toaster. Scared sounds like the roar of a monster. Scared feels like a ride on a roller coaster. And scared tastes like the strange bird in the roaster. That's my cooking. And then the wonderful thing about this book is it's gotten awards from the autistic foundations that it helps. Why I wrote this book is I was raised that it was not okay to feel, and for many decades I had no idea how to start. This book is dedicated to very young children whose parents want them to discover the joys and sorrows of feelings for the first time in a safe, nurturing, and expressive environment. For what is life without the vibrant color, beautiful sound, tantalizing touch, and delicious tastes of feelings? So that is Mommy What Are Feelings, and the first person to go to my website and put in feelings in the guest book at forbalance.org will win today's giveaway. And that is it really for this episode. I wanted to, we do have a little time left. I wanted to when it comes to talking about bullying, I think that is probably where we can affect the most in violence, the violence that starts that young. So in the old days, the one that got bullied is the one who was beat up. And then there was this, putting the moose on the table, there was this stand up for yourself and hit him back. And I think that has now developed into war, right? So if someone harms you, if someone does something to hurt you, like the World Trade Center, then we fight back.
Right.
And we do what they did to you, and then the cycle continues. And then we have ISIS.
Right.
And so if we were to dream, and I'm going to use this as an intentioned vision of our future, and your new book talks about visioning, what would it be like for our kids to have a government and a world when things happen like what is happening now? What can we do realistically to begin to teach our children that violence is not the answer? What can we do?
Well, you're speaking of bullying, and I remember we were talking about in nonviolent communication, you're finding the highest intention of the person who is committing the act of violence. So most often when someone's violent, they want to be heard, they don't feel loved, and they feel that they're in fear. And so often it's really easy to punish the action. Say, you're doing it wrong. I'm going to either revenge on you, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to put you away so that you learn your lesson. And I think what's most powerful, like in school settings, I've been doing some reading about how do they solve these bullying problems, because they're very, very bad for some people. And what a lot of educators have been doing is finding a purpose for the bully. Instead of treating the victim and saying, this is how we're going to empower you. You're going to learn martial arts. You're going to run away. You're going to find someone else.
Right.
We start to say, what is ailing the bully? Their heart is hurting. How can we heal their heart? And again, this sounds like a really sugar-coated Pollyanna answer.
Right.
These are very complex questions to sometimes answer.
Yes.
But sometimes the smallest task for a child or a young person can empower them to a point where they feel like they have worth. And so it is funny. It's like, can they lead? If they can't lead yet, they don't have the skills to be a leader, can they just have a task that will make them feel like they have a purpose during the day, so that they don't have a purpose of terrorizing another child who seems like an easy target. Now, when you start to translate that to the higher level of countries, it gets very complicated.
Yes.
And it's been
we're not saying that we go to ISIS and go back to their childhood and
and
say
have them revert.
I mean,
so, and I wish I had all the answers to those questions, and I don't. But what I do know is that if we can start to just examine and explore a new way to maybe solve some of the issues that we can, by being diplomatic, by offering assistance, where can we put love back into that equation to solve the problem instead of just having that knee-jerk reaction of somebody needs to die.
Right.
There's this many dead people. Someone else needs to die so that we know it's not the answer.
Yeah, because we know for sure that war is not the solution. I mean, American Sniper. I mean, the impact of war on everybody, you know, even the ones who are doing their job, is not. It's not the answer. We have to, and then again, always cautioning the balance.
Sure.
There's no one solution. Right? There's no one, but there's many solutions. And isn't that a great idea? Right. Because I think what happens with a lot of us is we get overwhelmed by the magnitude of what needs to happen to make things change. And so we go, well, it's not my problem.
Oh, we need to change it right away. And so we don't take the time to let that develop. Yeah. And I think we want a quick answer. We want to have something to give the people who feel like they need to be revenged. We want to calm them. Right. So there are many sides to the conflict. Yeah. And so it's not, right, like you said, it's not easy. No. And it's not just, you know, oh yeah, we're going to dissolve ISIS today, but just, you know, showering love intentions on them. Yeah. We're not that airy-fairy. But there's a practical way. I mean, look at some of the leaders who did it. Look at Gandhi. They solved a huge conflict with nonviolence. Right.
So why don't we spend some time examining that?
Right.
Instead of speculating, okay, instead of jumping down and blaming or, you know, throwing our hands up and walking away from it, why don't we actually take the time to look at the past, not in the negative way, but in the solution-based way? Right. Why don't we, you know, our young people have... I asked the kids this morning, you know, what do you think about ISIS? And it's like, well, it's an example of the hate that can come from differences in religious beliefs. Right. And so, okay, well, let's look. Where is there in history where religions have been able to coexist? Right. I mean, that's a way different direction to go than to say, that's why we have to be really afraid of our borders, and that's why we really have to, you know, no more foreigners in this land, or no more this, or, you know, we should have never, and we got to, you know, protect we have to, all that fear, that level of we have to protect ourselves. Look at where we've come from, generations and generations of that particular solution. Right. Is it working for us? No. So as simple as, let's talk to our kids about it. Right. You know, let's have a way to interject some of the balancing good in that conversation. Because you know they're talking about it. They're talking about it with their peers, you know. And again, yours not, but mine as teenagers.
But they are a little. Like my 8-year-old came home and we had to talk about Israel and Palestine. We did. We had to sit down, and what we did is we went and we found that we went thousands of years back, and we talked about in an 8-year-old way. This is the difference here. This is what happened. Well, that seems crazy to them. But then we talk about you and your sister are just fighting over who gets what side of the room. How can we translate what's happening there into this very small room? So I'm saying if we can just downsize this big world picture that we have, and if everyone starts working within their family, within their relationships, from a different place, not from a place of fear, and we get angry, have emotions. I'm not saying let's, you know, just be like, oh, it's cool, do whatever you want to do.
Serenity now.
Yeah. So we get to honor our emotions, but we also get to just take more time to process and do repairs when we need to, when we get angry and we, you know, say things we don't mean or we do things we don't mean, to talk about those things and say, I made a mistake. These are all things that we get to teach our kids. So making mistakes, that's a good thing. Yelling at your kid, if you come back and say, you know what, I lost my temper. Yes. You know, these are all, we're not saying let's just erase all conflict out of all of our entertainment, out of all of our media. What we are saying is, how can we make them opportunities for us to teach a new way in which to take on these new challenges.
Absolutely. Now we can go on. And we can't go on. I'm getting the signal. It is the end of the show. Please thank Jessica with our wonderful applause for coming and sharing
It was my pleasure.
your
Thanks for
love
having me.
and your creativity. I love you.
I love you too.
I'm so glad that you're part of my life and your children as well. And we're at the end of the show, so wrapping up with a few balance bars. I mentioned that we're giving Mommy What Our Feelings away, and you get a chance to get Forense's Light if you go to Facebook and shineyourlightbooks.com or on the Facebook page. Also, today is day 3 on round 45 of the 21-day fast from complaining. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do. Yes, there's no longer a line between my work and play. It's all the same, and I'm grateful for that. And if you would like to join the fast, it's not too late. Today's balance tip for the fast was it's much easier to stop complaining if you replace it with something, the balance again, which is gratitude. So from this day forward, if you are on my Facebook or my LinkedIn, you will see my daily gratitudes, and I would challenge you to do 8 things that you're specifically grateful for every single day in public so people know that you're on the fast. Wayne Dyer says 5. I'm a recovering overachiever. I say 8, and it is a homonym in Chinese for a good fortune. So please do join the fast. Again, if you want to help me out with the app, and that's GoFundMe/HRAXLO. And thanks to Hoop Shots TV, I am now SAG and AFTRA a card holder and eligible for things to produce to balance out what I don't see. Is again, I am trying to bring about the balance and put some good news in the media. If you would like to join me for the pregame show, April the 3rd, I'm going to be having a blast on the Lakers game court before the Trailblazers game. If you'd like to be a part of that, please go to my website. Details are there, as well as on my Facebook every day. And if you sign up, kids are signing up for free. It's a study party where you get to strut your stuff, you get to have a mentor there, and I'll be part of that. So please do sign up. We'll see you there. And adults get to raffle off free tickets to the game following the study party. So look for you there. Thanks to my station managers, Tony, and here at UBM, my sound engineers, Carlos, Mia, and Jarvis, and my assistant producer, Jarvis, as well, at both my UBN and KC8 family. And I don't know if we're going to do the whistle or not. Maybe not. Tune in next week for another call-in show for Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, where I have callers. If you'd like to be a caller, please do contact Jarvis, and he will set you up so you don't have to wait endlessly on hold, because I am Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. That's next week, so tune in. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. Remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
Learned to cry at an early age. People around me, my heart in a cage. It was a book, don't turn a page. I couldn't see past my rage. I wanted to dance, but I pushed you away. Now I'm on my knees, I'll listen to